Can you give us an overview of the Vicksburg Campaign?
Yes, the Vicksburg Campaign is one of the most important, if not the most important one in the Civil War. It is designed out of the Union strategy originally came up with by Winfield Scott, who was General-in-Chief. And they made a lot of fun of him at first. It was called the Anaconda Policy. And it was to divide the Confederacy first along the line of the Mississippi, and then cut it off from world markets and crush the Confederacy, worrying most about what is to the east of the river. So the first objective in the West will be to seize control of the Mississippi River, separating those states, the most important population and economically wise, from the larger area states to the west of the river. A second campaign will be directed that will originate out of Louisville and following the axis of railroads through Nashville to Chattanooga, a gateway to the south. And following again along the railroads from Chattanooga to Atlanta, which, if anyone had picked Atlanta for an important city at the beginning of the war, they would have laughed at them. But railroads had made Atlanta important, and Sherman goes from Chattanooga to Atlanta. And then he comes up with a scheme that Grant and Lincoln thought was not going to work, what the enemy would maneuver forever to get him to do, and that is to cut a swath to the south, to Georgia, which Georgia will remind you of today.
Yep.
250 miles in latitude, 40 miles in width from Atlanta to the sea. After resting in Savannah for 5 weeks, he then leaves Savannah. Again, has to really work hard to convince the president and General Grant to let him agree to not move his men by ship from Savannah to Petersburg and Richmond, to march them from Savannah by way of Columbia, South Carolina. And lo and behold, where's Sherman? At Goldsboro, North Carolina. He meets with the president and General Grant and Admiral Porter. And they tell General Sherman, you go back to Goldsboro, and you'll remain at Goldsboro until the 11th day of April. Why? They are worried that Sherman, if he's not put a break on him, will force Lee out of Richmond and Petersburg, which will be a big problem
they'd rather catch
after in the peace comes up. So that means that Sherman's under a short leave. So that means on the 29th day of March, Grant will launch his offensive. It will lead to Five Forks on the 1st day of April, to the breakthrough in Petersburg on the 2nd day of April, the evacuation of Richmond and Petersburg on the night of the 2nd day of April, and the surrender of Robert E. Lee at Appomattox Courthouse on the 9th day of April. And Sherman will leave Goldsboro on the 11th. So you could say that the Confederacy is going to be eventually crushed by what everybody made fun of Scott, the Anaconda Policy. And the snake is, and the anaconda is those people that started out west and will flush General Lee out of Richmond and Petersburg.
Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please subscribe and share it with your friends. You can also visit www.discerninghistory.com for more videos and other resources.